Hello viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Future Friday, we're gonna talk about basically trucks on rail. Basically, roll on, roll off. There are boats that are also roll on, roll off, but we are talking about train specifically. So what is the exactly problem with these puppies basically? They are fundamental to everything. Meaning, if for some reason somebody Thanos snaps trucks, you're not gonna injure a country, you're gonna delete a country. Fundamentally, everything. And the reason why they are so important, they have two things going for them. First, they have huge capacity, meaning they carry not in kilograms but in tons. They can easily be 10 ton to 30 ton of payload. I'm not talking about the full vehicle weight. 10 ton to 30 ton is not unheard of. And flexible, meaning if I have to bring something that is big and massive and I need this puppy to be brought in into my factory, very unlikely that I have a factory directly next to a railway station. So this is the only thing that can do that. Airport definitely cannot do it. Even if it can carry it, it just definitely does not have the last mile flexibility. So it is very serious, what we classify as lifeblood technology, meaning this has to become something that you don't think about because it's always there, always working. And we generally have two categories of it, containerized and loose cargo. 90% of the things are generally loose cargo. Containers, will talk more about that, but loose cargo is the backbone. And everything is great about them except this one thing: they are fuel guzzlers. They drink fuel like there is no tomorrow. Like, damn, they drink fuel, like so much so that if you look into India and like how much fuel does basically our India's crude oil consumption, basically a very large portion of that gets converted into diesel. A very large 65% of all diesel made in India is just consumed by these puppies. These are thirsty puppy. To give you a context, a scale of the consumption, if you compare it to liter, how much jet fuel India consumes, we consume less jet fuel. Like, we are traveling at hundreds of kilometers per hour, thousands of feet in the sky, and that is consuming less fuel than these puppies. That's the scale of the hunger, so to say. So reducing this even by a few percent is ginormous. Like, you will see this in your country's import budget. Like, it will be that big. That's why like Edison Motors are working their ass off to make that series hybrid system, because reducing hunger of these puppies even by a few percent is sure to take money. And there is a risk for that. While India does electrolyzed all of its railway, that did took care of a one chunk, it still made us exposed to the diesel. It's just that completely relying on diesel to like, okay, we still have to rely on diesel. Meaning if diesel price hikes going from 100 rupees to 104 rupees, yeah, instantly we'll have food prices hike. Meaning I'll go to market and it's like, hey, potato is this, let's say 30 rupees kilo. And it's like next day, why the heck it's 40? It's just that once that new truck come in with a new fuel price, it's like, yeah, my food price went up. So this is a very, what you call almost a life pulse. Like, if you monitor the price of diesel, you will monitor price of every single grocery. Again, big, large chains have some buffer, so Lay's prices will not fluctuate up too much. But like on the ground, reality will change very quickly. And you were like, okay, why not just electrify it? Yeah, we do not have the technology. And when I mean technology, I mean fundamentally having something that can, point to point replace this, as in you don't think about it. Like, same lifespan, like 30 to 50 years kind of a lifespan. And yes, people do drag these puppies. And if you're like, okay, these designs look old, yeah, they are actually from 30, 40 years old. So yeah, they do last. They're supposed to last. They are like strong puppies. They are built properly and they're supposed to last forever. I mean, like, not forever, but long enough. And India, it does last longer because we don't put salt in our road. So we do last. These puppies do last. And their range, if you give that range by batteries right now, as in like 2025, you can't do that. Like, it will become illegal. If you have to give the same tonnage capacity and you have to give the same range as a fully fueled truck, yeah, you have to be Elon Musk and you have to butter some politician. It's like, can you please give us exception in road loading? Otherwise, electric vehicle will not be viable. They had to increase the tonnage capacity otherwise. Or you can be like China. Chinese approach is a bit more clever. Is just that you will have smaller battery bank, but you will swap those batteries. Like quick charging time, swapping is done in like 3 to 5 minutes, and voila, you go. It's a fundamentally, right now we are not there yet. And not to mention longevity. Even if you have a battery that can give you the range, we do not have a battery that can give you the lifespan needed. So tech is not there. And even if you magically found, like, let's assume all the claims of the new blade battery is true, it's still not cheap enough. So tech is not there. And again, oh, it will become cheap, running cost. Here's the deal. If you go bankrupt just in the capital cost, running cost does not matter. You must be able to afford it without going bankrupt. So technology, as of now, 2025 is not there. And all the mathematicians and all the chemists are like, yeah, it's going to take a while. And hope AI bubble does not go boom, because that will cause massive inflation. And yeah, that technology will be pushed very far away. And grid is not ready, flat out. Grid is not there. Like, if you directly brute force that much, all you will do is, like, China is like, oh, so much, and they're burning more coal. Why the heck you're burning so much? Their mine trucks who are mining coals is running on electricity. I'm like, irony. But again, if you want to understand why it's not possible to just have electricity, especially, do not give me diluted example of, like, oh, tiny countries in Europe. Give me examples of top 10 population from 1 to 0. Then you will understand why that cannot be. Take the fuel consumption of 2025, convert 30% of it into kilowatt hour, then project that against national electricity. That much spare capacity does not exist. Right now, like, fundamentally, next 10 to 30 years, we cannot replace these puppies with electric, not with massive penalty. Like, and be mindful, whenever you're going to starve to death, it's not that you're going to have children and they're going to starve to death, it's that you will not have children anymore. You will not even know, but your cost of living would be so high, you will just say, okay, I'm ending my line. That's the penalty nowadays. It's not that, oh, I'm going to have children, then they're going to have hard life. It's like, I'm not going to have children because I can't afford anything. So burning money has a penalty. So containers, these things are intermodal container. Now, they were, the whole aim was, you put it on a truck, you put it on a train, you put it on a ship, you can do it all in backwards. Now, this does work. It's a great system. It does work. But because they're supposed to handle ship part, as in sea, yeah, they become brutal. Not only these puppies are designed to be actually stacked up to 10, and because they have to handle salty water, sea water, yeah, they are built like a brick, like a big, strong puppy. 4 ton, empty. They are heavy and brutal one. So penalty of that is same thing, like same way electric vehicle just reduces your legal tonnage. This also has the same thing, because you will pay, basically you will be able to fill less payload, otherwise you will exceed the road limit. So that's an issue, and that's why you will see trailer trucks like this rather than normal, just like, oh, why don't have a truck and just have these containers? Yeah, that containers are too heavy. Of course, it can, if your item is valuable enough, or if it is packed enough into it, where it's like something like lightweight electronics, yeah, of course, you're going to ship into this. That makes sense. But be mindful, tonnage is independent of the volume box, so to say. So that's a very serious limitation of these puppies. As in, even in China, you're like, okay, I'm going to be in China, I'm going to build my factory, and I'm going to ship there. You're not going to ship it in a container. You're going to ship it to the nearest port you have, basically shipping port. There you're going to have your closest warehouse as you can build, and there you're going to put on boxes. Be mindful, boxes are generally owned by the shipping companies, and they charge a hell lot of money if you delay the box by 1 or 2 days. So fundamentally, it does not make sense to use them. Like, these are great for basically railway and they are great. They are the backbone of international trading, but they suck at last mile delivery. Like, they are brutal. And because of that return penalty, like, imagine you shipped a car with this. Okay, great. People do. Luxury cars are shipped like that. It's just that the moment you send that customer, the truck has to return. Truck now has a 4-ton dead box, and it has to make sure that it finds something that is within a volume, within tonnage, and then only it can load in. 99% of the time it will not get that, so you have to pay. Basically, the customer has to pay for the return also. So it's very brutal and expensive. So not suitable for what we call last mile delivery. Great for connecting hub to hub, great for moving ships. All those are great, not for last mile. Basically, everybody who has to deal with it, they're like, empty this puppy as quickly as possible, dump it into normal trucks as soon as possible. So containers are great. And again, India became the world's first country to have electrified dual stack, train, dedicated freight corridor, if you want to Google it. So it will help multiple big nodes to be connected, shipyards to be connected to internal hubs. All those are great. It's just that you're not going to have this coming next to your factory. You don't want it to come to your factory. It would be brutally expensive. So the idea is, what if you have marriage of trucks with trains? Well, whenever people needs to move a lot of trucks, or specifically army, and they're like, hey, we have a lot of things that can drive on its own. They are meant to drive that on the, but I have to move it like 3,000 kilometers from one Indian base to another Indian base or American system. Whereas like, okay, we are moving from here to here, and that's like freaking 10,000 kilometers. I don't think it's 10,000 kilometers, but again, some of the distance between American army base is bonkers. So they're like, yeah, if they drive there, half of the lifespan of the vehicle would be spent and the fuel cost would be brutal. So in those sort of scenario, trains are the only viable method. You can't airship them. Trains is the only system. So basically, whenever you have A to B, meaning this hub to that hub, this is the only way of doing it. And even if it's diesel, because in India, you might be like, okay, we have electrified, it will save fuel. But again, in American system, it's diesel based. Would it save fuel? Yes, a lot, like 4 to 5x. It's bonkers amount of fuel savings. And not to mention, it will also give you reliability, as in, if you, whenever you are traveling and whenever you are dealing with something this massive logistically, you always have some buffer. If all of these is moving through what we call road traffic, no matter how good you are at logistics, it's just hopes and dreams. The moment it is on train, now you have good control over it. So that's a very good desirable property. And a big engine is far better than hundreds of smaller engine. A big 4,000 horsepower puppy is far efficient compared to having hundreds of 100 horsepower puppies. So big engines, great. Steel on steel, steel wheel on steel rail, GG, very low friction. It does come with a penalty that you can't apply brakes very quickly, but it is very efficient at rolling. So this is how all army base movements happen. Basically, oh, we're gonna have this, let's say, joint army exercise. Okay. Few days later, you will notice a lot of trains traveling from here, and there. Oh, and now we have a train from reserve and all that. Generally, if you're living in a decent sized country, you will see these things like every few months, so to say. And many places, like this is great for military. Again, army cannot function without that. Like they will just drink all your country's fuel if you are like, hey, you drive a truck or drive a tank that many kilometers. And not to mention, those will be spent. Like they do not have that kind of lifespan. So civilian use also is there. In India, a company Concord, basically Indian Railway, Concord is a small section. That division of railway did that in 1999, and it's been printing money. So the idea is they have two hubs, and that hub is a hilly road. The railway tracks are through the tunnels, so they are very flat, very low grade, but roads are brutal expensive. They're like, okay, just load the trucks into the rail, go. And everybody's happy. Oh, and not to mention, when they started, it was diesel. You will see a lot of video on YouTube. They are old diesel trains. Now they are electrified. So no pollution. Oh, by the way, these are generally under 24 hours. And basically the drivers stay in the vehicle. Those are like, overnight kind of cab systems. Train do stop regularly in known positions, so where you can get down, eat food, get refreshed, so to say. So this is a very common tactics of whenever you have to connect two nodes. It's great for node-to-node connection. Like for example, if you are like, hey, a lot of my trucks are going from this, let's say, shipping port to this area, and the nearest hub is in this area, then you're like, okay, ship all the trucks here, and then trucks will do the final mile delivery. That's a very desirable tactics. Then why don't we do that? Why still we have so much trucks in the road? There is a mathematical limit into this system. Is that they are very profitable venture. The Cornwall Railway, that basically that small town railway system, when they took it, it's like, barely making money. Now they're like, we don't talk about it. So it's great. And every place, like even in Europe, they did it, it's printing money. Everywhere else they did it, it's printing money. It's just that it has inelastic features, as in first in, last out. The first truck that is riding on, it will go there in the, like, just behind the locomotive, and then it's just like, chill, bro. Even if it, like, they reach their destination 5 hours or 8 hours later, it has to wait. All other trucks have to pull out from the back end, and then he will be like, okay, finally go. So it is, again, that's assuming the locomotive position remains the same. If they want to, they can change it. Like generally they do that. It's like locomotive on this side would be there. On the return side, they'll like park it such a way that back park it so this person can get out. So first in, last out is there. You can have first in, first out also. But again, it's very inelastic. And not to mention, the main issue is that you can't stop anywhere. Like it has to start, it has to end at the end. You can't stop, oh, my destination is near here. Many times people have to actually do U-turn. It's like, oh, the node is here, my location is here, train came from this side, I can't stop here and just 5 kilometers later. No, I have to go here, then drive 70 kilometers. Because again, you're still getting the fuel savings, so people do that. But you can understand that's hassle because of the loading structure. How you are loading, it's basically almost like a tape drive, not CD, tape drive, whereas like VCR, if you're old enough to remember that, or if you're like professional, you deal with LTO tapes, data has to be read sequentially, it has to be unloaded sequentially. So that's a fundamental thing. And you're like, okay, why not just put a crane? It's not viable per location, and not to mention they are very expensive. That's another thing with the shipping boxes. Those boxes are heavy puppies. So the containers, cranes, forklifts, all of those things that can handle that cost money. So, and not to mention, most trucks are not designed to be like, oh, just yoink it. Just yoink it with a system. It's not designed for that. So it's great for hub, because again, hubs have the luxury of starting everything. Like, oh, you are shipping cement. Cement is a very huge consumable item in India. And there is a belt in Rajasthan where you have a lot of cement factories in a concentrated area. So most trucks, cement trucks starts from there. Great. It's just that they go to different places. And even on the same line, it's like, okay, I'm going to go from, let's say, Rajasthan to Calcutta. It's like, okay. And then like, okay, what if a delivery is, yeah, stay on the train, then go here. That's not acceptable. That's why this thing is not a fixed service everywhere. It's not just like, ta-da, simply because of that inelastic nature of it. So the start to end hub is the limiting factor. And the only thing we need is the ability to just hop. It's like, hey, oh, this is my station, I'm out. If you can do that, problem would be solved. Be mindful. In India, the same basically railway facility that did this, they are also offering basically civilian use, because be mindful, these does not have a coach. This has a coach. The idea was during festival, a lot of people travel using their own vehicle. And again, same road congestion and all that. They're like, okay, let's try that. If I'm not mistaken, this was not that profitable. This prints money. This was not that many. Again, they have to run it for quite some time for people to build confidence. And then like, okay, I'm going to put my vehicle on a train. And then we're going to encase it. Then I'm going to sit in a train and then hope everything goes well. It takes time. But let's see, that can also be, and European one does have that. You park your car there and just go there. English tunnel also has that. So if we can solve this issue, where it's like, okay, you have a train and you can get on and off like just a normal passenger, next day you can save planet in terms of CO2 emission by a lot, like a lot. If you can just solve this hassle, it's like load from one end, unload from other. That's the biggest issue. So what can we expect in the future? Well, we only need 30 degree. That's the requirement. Basically, the bucket you have, if you can pivot the bucket by 30 degree, not hinge. I'm not talking about hinge. There are two companies that have hinge designs. I have linked them down below. But the idea with that is like, assume this is the one end, they hinge like this, basically. Ta-da! So you have to drive out, great. But you have to drive back in. So you have to reverse into it. So that's not that great. This one, you drive whichever direction you want. Like basically one person can drive out, another person can drive in this train. And yes, this is real. This is not CGI. It's real. So we just need to have the bucket pivot by 30 degrees and both side becomes open, meaning you can just one side, you can literally have a what you call a methodology where it's like all the unloading happens on that direction, on the loading happens on this direction, almost like metro. So this is the easiest way to allow train to have flexibility for big puppies. Everybody will use it. And again, Europe has been using this, and you can see that like train comes in, pivots everything. And again, you only need to pivot that needs to be dismarked, so to say, not everything. Like that's the biggest advantage. You do not have to touch that. If you're like, hey, that's not marked for this storage, don't touch it, don't touch it. It's great. It's from a company, LOHR, MODALOHR. I have linked them down below. It's the closest system that I want. However, it does have this one design limitation, I would say, or choice. Now be mindful, European railway gauge is tiny compared to Indian one. Almost 1 foot tiny, comparatively speaking. Heck, even their tunnels are tiny. Again, it is a penalty of like a heritage of 1800s, but it is there. In Indian system, we can easily make it bigger. That's why they are only shipping the containers, the trailer. They're not shipping the vehicle, the full vehicle, they are not shipping it. But again, it's still making money. It has been done from like 2008-9, and people are happy with this. They're like, bro, this is awesome. And again, it's because it does not require a long string. It's not that what you call slow. Surface area consumption is also very low. However, while the pivot is in the machine, the pivot driver is on the ground. That's the expensive part. That's the European damage. We cannot have this. In India, you cannot do this because again, if train is a bit more expensive, that's digestible. If every station where you want this option has to become expensive, it's like, that's a very undigestible problem. So basically, we have to figure out how to have a hinge motor on this. Can it be done? All the hinge designs that I am talking about, they have hydraulics. Heck, one had like diesel generator, well, electrical motors with hydraulic system. Again, it did not flexi motor or something. I've linked them down below. But it was too broad. The idea was, oh, park anywhere. Like train could be anywhere, and you can literally, it's gonna unlock it. It has a giant door. It will drop it, and then you can drive your truck. It was too overbuilt. Another one is also same. That's why I'm saying sliding is not good enough. For hinge, all you need is a platform which has to be made out of strong concrete. We have that, and if you have to put rollers on that, because again, this has rollers for them to rotate, you may need to put a steel plate. Manageable, we can afford it. Indians can afford concrete and steel plate. So that way you can have the platform is just like train comes here, platform has like steel and it has concrete behind it. The end, nothing more than that. How would you rotate it? That's the key part. You have to make it cheap enough, robust enough that it can survive outdoor railer use for 30-40 years. It should be doable. We have the technology. It should be doable. Hydraulics, I'm like, tonnage wise, I don't think hydraulic has any issue. Like, bro, like 30 tons is like which place? And I'm talking 30 ton full. Most of these designs are generally under 30 ton. So we can easily do that. It's just that have trustworthiness, basically putting something and trusting. There are some people saying like it would be better to just have something which is a mechanical pivot. There is another company that ships very long steel plates, and they're like, okay, we can't ship it like this. It will collide. Tilt it. How the heck you tilt it? Don't do anything. Just put a crank engine on that. It's just gonna crank it. That's more robust, long-term lasting. That can also be done. But again, cranking something that is 30 ton is like not impossible, but messy. So that's the future. Basically, we need to dumbify this, smartify this, problem solve. This will allow every country to save so much on fuel. So much. Like you have no idea how much extra money India's dedicated freight corridor can print. It will go. And a lot of other locations also that just have one line which is not electrified. The railway rarely uses it. There was some plant that used it. Now it's like empty. People are like, bro, we can ship trucks there. And again, that's why I'm saying like it should not require anything other than just like, some basic staff and some concrete and steel. So this is the future that we need, as long as somebody figure out how to delete this. So take this, Control C, Control V into this. But again, if you know any idea how somebody can make this and be my railway grade robustness, not like, oh, it lasts 10 years. No. Railway grade robustness. You built it, you forget it. So how would you drive the, would you use a hinge? Would you use a cog and wheel? Would you use basically linkages, hydraulic pistons, air pistons? So that's the hard part. Basically, how the heck you're going to pivot it? Because you need a locking mechanism, which again, if you have air brakes, that's doable. Unlocking mechanism, air brakes, doable. Pivoting, messy because it does require oomph. But I'm just like, can some engineer figure out how to do this? You're going to be printing so much money if you did. So this was my presentation on basically a roll on and roll off system and why we are limited. We just need that 30-degree pivot. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me excitement. In case you have enjoyed it, click the hype button. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.